What's up, Spartans? Batman from TST Gaming here, keeping you updated with everything Halo. And today we're giving you our review of the Halo television series Episode 8, Allegiance. But before we get started, please subscribe for more Halo content.
TST Gaming, your destination for all things Halo.
Spoiler warning for those of you who have not seen this episode yet. We recommend that you pause this video, go watch the episode, and then come back to hear our review. So Episode 8 was a very controversial episode if you look at it on Twitter or forums, because of a lot of things that happened, and we'll go into those in a little bit. But one thing I gotta say that I really loved about this episode was its focus on Makee. That this was a huge episode for her in terms of her allegiance. I mean, the episode is aptly named for her, because at the beginning of the episode, she's still kind of evil, and then halfway through, she has a transition where she basically chooses to be good, and then Halsey steps in and decides to take matters into her own hands and basically corrupts her against the UNSC, and then shortly after that, she gets attacked, so then she's back to being evil. And so it was a very up and down episode for her, but I really liked seeing her journey, and I'm really getting more invested into this character because she's so different than anything that we've had in the traditional canon. I did notice after the fact that Quan Ha and Soren were not in this episode. I don't know if we're going to see Soren anymore this season. I'd be really surprised because I feel like he got what he wanted. He went back to the Rebel, and that's that. Quan Ha, I expect to see probably in the finale as to bridge John to Halo, however that may play out. But I don't think they'll have her for season 2. I think that that's basically her story, was basically to get them to Halo, and that's it. I did like seeing more Miranda Keyes and Captain Keyes scenes together, showing their love for each other, because even in the traditional canon, the Keyes duo had a good relationship, but Halsey and her didn't. And I like that they've played that out over the course of the season, and I hope to see more of that. One thing I actually really loved about this episode was at the very beginning with Miranda, hearing the dialogue from the downed UNSC ship that Makee helped to take over. She couldn't understand why the message didn't sound alien. And it was one of those things where, as a viewer, you probably figured that out. That, oh, hey, that must be Makee's message. And so you knew it was a ticking time bomb that was just going to blow everything up towards the end of the episode, if not the season. So I loved that, because it was just like, oh, something's about to happen. What's going to be that thing that's going to be the catalyst that's going to break her one way or the other? I do want to talk about the whole sex scene with John and Makee. That is probably the most controversial thing I've been seeing online. And I actually got that spoiled for me, so that kind of upset me because it's such a big thing. Someone posted just pictures on Facebook, and I was at work at like 8 a.m. And so it's like, I haven't even had time to watch it yet. The episode just came out last night. I was busy the night before. And so it was one of those things where I knew it was going to happen, and so I wonder how my feelings or reaction would have been had I not known that. It was really interesting, too, that they decided to have Cortana watching. And it almost seemed like from that point on in the episode, Cortana was actually visibly upset. And so I thought that was really, really intriguing. And I wonder if we're going to learn more about that later, or if this is kind of how she starts to really care about John, seeing his humanity. Because she's basically a child with an adult's mind, but she's experiencing everything for the first time. And I think that she looks at John, in this case, to be a living vicariously through him sort of thing going on, where she sees what human emotion and human love does. And I like that this episode, Cortana actually stood up to Halsey and helped John, instead of, taking John and the Spartans and Cortana and Makee off planet with Halsey. Halsey is a character who I love. She's probably my favorite character in the show, but she definitely mixes things up, and sometimes it doesn't end up in her favor, and this is one of those times. They basically set everything up as dominoes this entire season. Every episode feels important. Even the Quan Ha episode felt important to the larger narrative, and I love that. I'm very excited to see the finale and how everything that these dominoes have been stacked falls. Which I'd like to touch on actually again. One thing I really loved about it is they didn't make it about the nudity or the sexuality of it. They made it about these two people discovering the similarities in one another. Because Makee was seeing the scars that John had from the UNSC and from humans, and John was seeing the scars that McKee had from the Covenant, and so it just feels like they are parallels of one another. And the fact that they're these genetically predisposed humans that are very unique to one another, they just have this connection that is very, very strong. And so I love the fact that she even took off her energy fingernail, whatever you want to call it, energy blade, and then when she needed it, when she was getting attacked, she couldn't do anything with it. But I really loved the relationship between John and her, and I'm glad it's not something like just, oh, we're going to continue with this relationship. It was like, oh, hey, we had our moment, we had our pure connection, and everything felt good, and then all of a sudden, bam, she's now saying goodbye to him, and I wonder if she's going to be in the next season on Halo as a villain for Master Chief on Halo. But I really hope they continue kind of getting them kind of closer to each other and not close to each other at certain points. Like, this is a relationship, like an on again, off again kind of thing that actually I wouldn't mind seeing. I know it's very different and you might not like that opinion, but this is a different timeline. Let them do what they want. They can't just have a man in a mask the entire time. Even Batman would be boring if the whole time he was just Batman. You want to see Bruce Wayne sometimes. And that's kind of how I feel when he takes his helmet off, he's John. When he's got the helmet on, he's Master Chief. And so to me, it's almost two sides of different personalities. And so I really like that they're exploring his humanity as well as McKee's, because their journeys are very similar but very different at the same time. Overall, I would give this episode an 8 out of 10. And that's all we have for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching TST Gaming, and until next time, just play.